What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the studio. I hope you're all doing fantastic. Today I want to do a little follow-up on my monitor upgrade that happened earlier in the year. Specifically going to talk about the Adam A8Hs and Sonarworks. But before we get to that, I want to mention that from here on out, I am no longer going to run any ads on any of my upcoming videos. No pre-roll, mid-roll, post-roll, no ads. This whole ad thing is completely out of control and drives me batshit crazy. And if it's driving me crazy, it's probably driving some of you crazy too. So I'm gonna nix it all. If you wanna help support the channel, if you get something out of these videos, if you enjoy the videos, if they make you laugh, if they make you cry, I have links down in the description to some of the merch, the new Console Fader t-shirts, matching Console Fader coffee mug, and my personal favorite, and also my mantra, the no coffee, no recording coffee mug. There's also links to my drum sample packs as well as Zounds affiliate links where you can go buy some awesome gear and support the channel at the same time. And this way everybody gets something. It's a win-win and we're all happy. Okay, back to the speakers. The Adam A8H. Am I happy? In a word, yes. I'm very, very happy with them. And I had a feeling I was going to like them before I even got them because I was already using the Adam A7X, which I liked. This has been a significant upgrade for me. I'm really happy. I like the fact that I have two three-way monitors now and not a pair of satellites and a separate subwoofer because I feel like my low end is tighter, especially the timing. So I'm happy about that. I think one of the biggest differences though is the mid driver. It's very articulate, and I do a lot of rock and metal where that mid-range and that high mid is not only busy, but has a lot of textured information in it. And I feel like these drivers do a very nice job at giving me that articulation, let me hear that, but also the depth, which makes it really easy to set effects, which I like. And then there's the ribbon tweeters that I was already a fan of. And I find that working on these speakers for those long days, I have a lot less ear fatigue, which is great. But I think the biggest thing that I like is some of their voicings, specifically the pure voicing, which is a neutral, flat voicing, which is what I pretty much exclusively use. And we'll get to that in a second. Now, everyone should know I have no affiliation with Sonarworks, Adam Audio. I'm open to it though, hint, hint, wink, wink. I am a Zounds affiliate, and Zounds is who hooked up and made this possible, but I requested them and they are awesome and they have absolutely no input on what I say about anything. Before we get to some of my thoughts on the Sonarworks, what I think about it and the implementation, because I have been using it for a few weeks, I want to do an abbreviated walkthrough of the setup process, the shooting of the room, and then the exporting of the profile and loading it onto the Adam A8Hs because it's actually really, really easy. I think these companies did a great job at getting things to work together. So let's take a quick look at that and I'll come back and give some thoughts. I have the software for Sonarworks and the A control for the A8Hs on my trusty old laptop here because the cheese grater, my old machine that still runs the entire studio, is too old to run the A control software, so I do everything here from the laptop. I have an Ethernet cable plugged in. There is a switch that's back behind the console that has both of the speakers plugged in, and I'm using my Motu Ultralight as my I/O for the measurements for Sonarworks. Also, I'm not using their microphone. I may pick one up at some point here, or maybe not, I don't know. I have this old Apex that I've used for ages. It's what I've done all of my room calibrations with, and that's what I'm gonna use today. So let's jump right into this. First off, let's take a look at the software. For Sonarworks, you have all of your options. There's so many different setups you can have here. I'm just gonna select stereo because that's what I'm doing. Go to the next. I'm going to check all these boxes here because I have everything ready to go. Ooh, got input signal. Since I am not using their mic, I'm just going to select the different measurement microphone, hit next. I do not have a calibration file for this, and I actually emailed Apex and they don't have one. There's a sheet that comes with it, but they don't have one, so I'm just going to skip this for now. Yes, yes, yes. And do a quick test.
Left speaker, right speaker.
Everybody's working so far. And now we get into the good stuff. So let's do a test tone.
Please adjust the volume of your output device. My voice should sound at normal conversation volume. Left speaker. Right speaker.
I already went through this part to make sure everything was working for the video. I'm just showing you what the process is. Yes, we are good to go here. If you've never done this before, they have these handy instructions that you can follow. Shows you everything, exactly how to do it. So now what we're going to do is okay, the gain adjustment is set on the mic. And I'll probably have to move this camera when I get into the good stuff here. Now, I'm not going to run this entire setup because it takes about 20 minutes or so. What I am going to do is the first few pieces of it, because once you get into it, it's really kind of the same steps over and over. So I'll just give you an idea of what's happening, and then we'll skip to the end after the measurement is done. Okay, let's start the measurements.
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress. Left speaker done.
Ooh. All right. Let's do the right speaker.
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress. Right speaker done.
Excellent. Now it's going to give you some dimensions here, and this is telling me 3 feet 8 inches. I know from my very first measurement and from actually measuring it, I'm about 3 feet 11 inches. So that, I'm going to make an adjustment. That's probably where I was holding the microphone is the problem. Okay, so next step. Now we're going to test the listening spot. And right there, and this is, yep, that looks about like my very first time I did this, so we are pretty good. So now we get to measure the room response, and this is where it gets fun. So what's going to happen is it's going to send a signal out the speakers. This is probably why it's called Sonarworks, and it's going to come in the mic, so it's going to know exactly where I'm in the room, and I'm just going to follow the diagram on the monitor here and put the microphone in the correct spot. So here we go. So you can see the test is actually kind of cool. I did have a point about halfway through where it had a hard time finding the mic in a couple spots. The very first time I did this test, I had no problems. And it seemed to only do it in a couple spots and then it was fine again. So I don't know, reflections or something caused an issue, not entirely sure. But here's what we've ended up with. So it shows both left and right speakers. So you can see there are a few discrepancies, and we're going to see how this fixes this. So I'm going to do, let's see, we're going to do listening position. I'm just going to call it date. Now I have it open in the reference app so we can actually see what the correction is going to be. So here's off. Yes, I know. Boom. So there was the room measurement. I'm going to turn the calibration on, and there's what it's going to do to even the room out. So it appears to be doing quite a bit. But having done this already and lived with it for a while, I know that what I'm going to hear when I start doing my listening tests is not going to be as drastic as what my eyes are seeing on the screen right now. But what I need to do is I need to get this out of Sonarworks and onto the Adam Audio speakers. So I'm going to go over here and select these three dots next to the calibration file that we just opened, and I'm going to go to Export, and I'm going to go Adam Audio A series. And now this was recommended by Adam Audio. It's just to leave it on no boost, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And I know I've already selected where it's going to go, which is in my Adam Audio folder. Open that, hit export. Boom, done. Now I'm going to open the A-Control software. This is where we can make all our changes in real time to the speakers sitting out here in the listening position, which is fantastic. But we're not going to go through that today. I'm going to go right over here to the Sonarworks. We're going to go up here and we are going to load Sound ID preset. I'm going to navigate to my Adam Audio folder. I'm going to go to listening position, which is what we did today, and we're going to open. So we got to make sure we select the correct file. So we'll go left and right and hit apply. Now, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but the LEDs actually blink when it loads this file. And now those files are loaded directly onto the DSP on the A8Hs, and we can start listening. Don't have to worry about the plug-in, don't have to deal with the latency and all that stuff. The other cool thing is I can go between any of the settings that I was originally working with and compare them in real time to the Sonarworks profile that was just taken from the room. But all in all, this whole process to shoot the room with the Sonarworks software, export that calibration file, and then import it onto or directly onto the A8Hs is pretty smooth. It's actually really simple. And I like being able to do it all out here in front, especially now if I'm going to do some testing by selecting different settings on the speakers. One of these days when we upgrade the computer, I won't have to have the laptop out here, but for now it works just as easy to leave the laptop set right here. I can sit in the listening position and I can select back and forth. Okay, like I said earlier, I've been using the Sonarworks on the Adam A8Hs now for a few weeks because I wanted to see, one, how it worked, and two, if I liked it before moving on and making any sort of long form video or any other video about it for that matter. So what are my thoughts? Well, initially, when I looked at the shoot of the room, what I saw in Sonarworks was very familiar to the last couple times I took calibrations with Room EQ Wizard. So I knew it was pretty much in the ballpark. My ears agreed with that as well. When I saw what it was going to do to fix the room, when I just turned that calibration on and I saw the adjustment, for whatever reason, now unfounded, I was kind of worried, to be honest with you, because it looks drastic on the screen. I mean, you're seeing 6 dB shifts in spots, and I was worried that I was literally going to hear that, like some gigantic shift in the room, which I didn't want. Honestly, the only area that was giving me fits was between around 120 hertz up to about 165, 165 hertz. That area was problematic because at the mix position, it would resonate. And you could move like a foot back and it was gone. You could move a foot forward and it would just move between like 160 and 120. And through a lot of the tracking that I was doing, especially with bass, that was really problematic. That's the area I was hoping to fix. If I could deal with that, I was going to be ecstatic. If I got anything more, it was just icing on the cake. So when I saw that adjustment, I was like, oh man, I'm going to turn this on and it's just going to, all of a sudden, it's going to be this jolting sound coming out of the speakers. And I don't know why I thought that, because that's not what happened at all. Matter of fact, initially, I didn't really notice much difference. It took me, honestly, a couple days of listening, and I think the first day I did it, I listened for hours. I mean, we have a folder in iTunes with a bunch of songs that we use for low-end check and mid-range check and different styles. I went through all of that stuff, I'll bet each of those songs 10 times, and then I pulled up some of the recent sessions that I've been working on, so I could listen back to those spots where I knew I was having problems in the room. And after a couple days, I started to notice that as I flipped through all these, certain things were just no longer a problem, but there was no obvious shift to what was coming out of the speakers, because at first I actually thought I loaded it wrong. But as I listened more, I was actually very happy that that is in fact what was happening. Those problem areas just kind of went whoop, and it just evened everything out. There was no noticeable EQ to my ears in the room. And the more I worked on them in the sessions, the more I realized, especially some of the drum sessions, I was processing less. There was EQ that I wasn't doing, and I didn't even really notice this at first until I would listen back at the end of the sessions to see how I liked things. And I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm kind of hearing things a little bit for the first time again, which was really cool. Then I remember after about 8 or 9 days of having it installed, Ernesto finally came over because we were doing a recording session and a film shoot with Toshi and Phil Maturano. And Ernesto just sat at the back of the room and he didn't say anything. And I've got audio coming out. We're doing the sound check. And he's like, look, I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what is going on, but the room feels different right now. What I'm hearing, it just the feel of the room. And I thought that was a great way to put it. And that's about the same thing I experienced, especially around the mix position. I noticed that it was really easy to judge low end. That whole area felt like everything was in its place. That resonance that I was having between 120 and 160, depending on the instrument, of course. It wasn't the entire, 120 to 160. It was just points inside that. That wasn't an issue anymore either. And that's a real misleading area. I could move left to right around the racks or to the different sides of the console. I also noticed when I did that my sweet spots didn't shift. It actually got quite wide. And that movements forward or backwards, like, if I wanted to put my elbows down on the console and listen, I didn't notice a shift from where I was sitting to where I was leaning down. That was all but gone. And even as you walked around the room, we went to the spots in the room where we knew there were obvious knolls and peaks. And they weren't areas that you would necessarily stand to check anything. But, you get to know the room, you know where those areas are. And we went to those, and that was all evened out. The low end became so easy to judge. And it all became apparent when I did my first full mixes, working on some new Gigantum mixes. And after about a half a day of mixing, I realized how easy it was. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't second guessing some of those areas at all. I mean, that was gone. But since I wasn't thinking about it, I didn't really notice until later when I kind of was evaluating the workflow. I was like, wow, this has really made the whole mixing process easier. It's also made the tracking process easier. So long story short, I'm really, really pleased with this. I'm still on the trial because with the A series, you get 60 days, which I think is awesome because you can really evaluate it. You can take multiple shots. You can live with it for a while to see if you really like it. I think it's pretty safe to say that I'm gonna buy it, and I'll probably buy the mic too, only because I'd like to see if what that mic hears in the room is different than the Apex mic that I've been using for ages. And then if there is a difference, I'll probably do another video at some point on it. But I'm really happy with how the room sounds and how the room feels. The process of doing it's easy. The Sonarworks software is a breeze. Getting everything to load on the Adam A Control software was a breeze, and I already love the speakers, so it's been fantastic. I've also noticed now that one last thing, that when I move between the Adam, the Avantone, and my Audio-Technica headphones, which is my 3 main things that I check everything on, it translates to all of them. I have no plans on at this point of getting it for the headphones. I want just the Adams to have it, and then I want to check what happens in those other areas. And I know my Audio-Technicas really well, and I know the Avantones really well too. But I can say I'm happy. I highly recommend checking it out. I have links to Zounds down in the description where you can go buy this stuff. Affiliate links, you can help support the channel. But at the very least, give it a shot, download the trial, and see what you think, and see if it's for you or not. And let me know if it is and what works for you guys. So anyway, thank you all for joining me on this video. I hope you're all doing fantastic. We'll see you in the next video. Happy recording and mixing, everybody.